Ever caught a woman's eyes locking with yours, and in that frozen instant it felt like the air got heavier? That 1 second isn't just a look, it's a test, a signal, and a silent message all rolled into one. Men often shrug it off, thinking it's nothing, but that's the biggest mistake. Because in that brief flicker, she's already told you more than her words ever could. Eye contact is the fastest language in existence, and most men never bother to learn it. They wander through life blind to the most powerful weapon of attraction that women wield effortlessly. Think about the last time it happened to you. She looked at you and your chest tightened. Maybe you looked away too fast. Maybe you held it for a second too long. Either way, you felt it. That rush. That sudden spark you couldn't explain. Women understand this game better than most men ever will. They've been playing it since their teenage years. They know the difference between a glance that makes a man sweat and one that makes him chase. The problem is, most men are walking around, clueless that their entire interaction with women begins and ends in the eyes. This is where power shifts without a word being spoken. A woman can decide if you're bold or hesitant, confident or insecure, strong or submissive, all from how you handle that first locked moment. It's not fair, but it's real. You're being judged in milliseconds. She doesn't need to hear your jokes, your stories, or your plans. She reads your energy straight through your eyes. If you look away first, she feels it. If your gaze shakes, she knows it. If you hold it steady, controlled, unflinching, you've already passed the first test most men fail without even realizing. What makes this so brutal is that you only get one shot. That glance doesn't replay. You don't get to hit rewind and try again. The moment comes, and how you respond defines whether she feels pull or push. That's why the stakes are so high. Men who master eye contact walk into a room differently. They don't need to be the loudest, the tallest, or the richest. The weight of their presence is communicated in silence, with nothing but the eyes. Women pick up on it instantly. Other men feel it too, even if they can't put it into words. The truth is, women know the game, but most men don't. That's why so many guys end up confused, wondering why she lost interest before things even started. It wasn't the clothes, the money, or the words. It was the moment her eyes met yours and you didn't know what to do. She saw the hesitation. She felt the weakness. And she moved on. But if you flip it, if you train yourself to control that first lock, everything changes. That one look becomes the start of her curiosity instead of the end of her interest. A woman decides more about you in the first 3 seconds of eye contact than she does in 3 minutes of talking. That's the brutal truth no one tells men. Before you even open your mouth, before you even think about your introduction, she's already formed her first impression. And that impression is hard to erase. It's carved into her instinct, shaped by evolution, designed to judge quickly and accurately whether you're a man worth her attention, or one she'll forget the second you turn your back. Those first few seconds are the battlefield. They decide if she sees you as bold or hesitant, sharp or sloppy, grounded or fragile. Most men blow it before they've even realized the fight has started. They look down, they fumble, they glance away too soon, and in doing so they silently tell her, "I can't handle the weight of you." That's all it takes. She doesn't need to hear your life story. She doesn't need to know your achievements. The eyes tell her everything. You felt it yourself. That moment when her gaze locks on you and your chest tightens, your palms itch, your throat dries. You don't even know why. It's primal. You're suddenly hyper-aware of yourself. That's the pressure she exerts with nothing more than a look. And here's the secret. It's not just attraction she's testing. It's composure. It's presence. Can you hold her without flinching? Can you keep steady when the energy between you crackles? Most men can't. They either drop their eyes like a boy caught stealing, or they overcompensate, turning their stare into a glare, trying too hard to seem dominant. Both give them away. The key isn't aggression. It isn't submission either. It's calm control. It's the ability to hold her eyes without needing to win, without needing to prove. That subtle balance is what separates men who captivate from men who crumble. A steady gaze that lingers just long enough, not rushed, not forced, creates a spark that lingers in her mind long after the glance has passed. It's not about being flashy, it's about being unshakable. Think about the men you've seen who walk into a room and own it without saying a word. They're not the loudest. They're not trying to pull attention. But when their eyes meet someone else's, it's like the world slows down. That's the kind of presence women feel instantly. They don't process it logically, they feel it in their bodies. Something about you makes them lean in instead of pull back. This is why you can't afford to waste those first 3 seconds. They decide everything. If you come in nervous, apologetic, hesitant, you're already dead in the water. If you come in calm, grounded, certain, you've already separated yourself from 90% of men she meets. That's how fast the game is. That's how unforgiving it is. And that's why mastering those first moments of eye contact isn't optional. It's survival in the world of attraction. Not all eye contact is created equal. Every glance has a flavor, a hidden meaning, a pulse behind it. The mistake most men make is lumping them all together, assuming a look is just a look. That's like saying a whisper is the same as a scream. Both come from the mouth, but they carry entirely different messages. A woman knows this instinctively. She knows when she wants to pull you closer and when she wants to keep you at a distance, and her eyes deliver that message before her lips ever move. If you can't tell the difference, you're already playing blind. Direct eye contact is bold. It's deliberate. When she looks you straight in the eye without hesitation, she's communicating interest, challenge, or intensity. The energy of that stare can make a man feel 10 feet tall, or completely exposed. But here's the catch. It's not always an invitation. Sometimes it's a test. Sometimes it's her way of measuring whether you'll flinch. The man who drops his eyes first loses more than just the gaze. He loses the unspoken respect tied to it. Then there's the peripheral glance. This one is slippery, easy to miss, but more powerful than men realize. She doesn't look directly, but out of the corner of her eye you catch it. Quick, soft, fleeting. It feels accidental, but it rarely is. That sideways look is often safer for her. It shields her from rejection while still sending a signal. She's giving you a thread, waiting to see if you'll pull it. Ignore it and it disappears. Respond with subtle acknowledgement and the game begins. And then we have the soft gaze. This one doesn't burn like direct eye contact. It doesn't tease like the peripheral glance. It melts. It disarms. When her eyes rest on you with softness, almost vulnerable, it's not weakness, it's invitation. She's lowering the shield. She's allowing you into a space most men will never enter. But you'll only see it if you're present enough to notice. Most men miss it because they're too busy overanalyzing or too distracted to catch the nuance. The spectrum is wider than you think. A glance can be playful, predatory, protective, or even dismissive. Each carries a different weight, and if you don't learn to decode it, you'll keep walking away confused, telling yourself, "She wasn't into me," when in reality she was signaling the opposite. Women don't always risk words, but they rarely hide their eyes. Their glances are constant leaks of truth, dripping meaning in silence. Imagine being the man who can read all of this. You'd never miss a signal again. You'd know when to lean in, when to hold back, when to press forward, and when to walk away. The world would open up in ways other men can't imagine. And the best part? Once you train your eyes to see it, you'll realize women have been communicating with you like this your entire life. You just didn't know how to listen. Sometimes her eyes don't come at you with fire, they don't cut like a blade, they don't test your strength head-on. Instead they soften. They linger in a way that feels almost delicate. And if you're not paying attention, you'll mistake it for nothing. But that softness is never accidental. It's not weakness. It's not indecision. It's her quiet way of opening the door, giving you a chance to walk through without saying a single word. Most men miss it. They're too busy waiting for a big, obvious sign. They're blind to the small, silent invitations that actually matter the most. A soft gaze is vulnerability disguised as curiosity. It's her eyes lowering just enough to take the edge off, signaling comfort, signaling possibility. When a woman allows her gaze to soften around you, she's showing trust. And trust is never free. She doesn't hand it out to every man. She doesn't let just anyone see her in that unguarded state. If you don't recognize it, you'll walk away empty-handed, never realizing the chance you were given. Here's what makes it powerful: it slows you down. A sharp, piercing look can spike adrenaline, but a soft gaze draws you in differently. It relaxes your defenses. It makes you want to lean closer, to hear her voice, to match the energy she's putting out. That's by design. Women understand the pull of a softened glance. They know it creates intimacy without effort. They know it can make you lower your guard, reveal yourself, chase them harder. And if you don't know how to read it, you're already caught in her rhythm without realizing it. This is where most men fail. They either overlook it completely or misinterpret it. They mistake softness for disinterest. They think, she's not really looking at me. Wrong. She is. But she's doing it in a way that gives her cover. She doesn't risk rejection, she doesn't expose too much, yet she's still sending the signal. It's your job to catch it. The moment you notice it, everything changes. You see the way her eyelids lower just slightly, the way her eyes don't dart away in panic but rest in place, calm, almost inviting. You notice the stillness in her body that accompanies it. And in that stillness she's telling you, I'm open but you need to move. If you respond with equal calm confidence, steady eye contact, a relaxed smile, the courage to step in, you confirm her choice. You show her she was right to let the shield down. That's how intimacy is built before a single word is spoken. Soft doesn't mean weak. It means deliberate. It means strategic. It means she's letting you into a place where most men will never be invited. And the man who knows how to read that subtlety will always have an advantage over the man who only notices the obvious. The eyes whisper before the lips ever speak. If you can catch that whisper, you'll hear what most men never will. In one part of the world, a direct stare means attraction. In another, it's an insult. That's the reality most men ignore when it comes to eye contact. We like to think it's universal, that a look always means the same thing, but it doesn't. Culture shapes the way people use their eyes, and if you don't understand that, you'll keep misreading signals. A glance that feels like an invitation in one country can feel like a challenge in another. The meaning isn't fixed. It bends with tradition, upbringing, and environment. Picture this. In Western culture, bold eye contact often shows confidence. Women use it to signal interest, men use it to assert dominance, and both understand it as a way of showing strength. Now shift to parts of Asia, where prolonged eye contact can be considered disrespectful, even aggressive. There, a lowered gaze doesn't mean weakness. It can mean politeness, humility, or deference. If you don't know this, you walk in blind. You think she's avoiding you when in reality she's showing respect. The same goes for subtle gestures. A soft gaze in one culture might be read as flirtation, while in another it's simply friendliness. A lingering glance across a room might scream attraction in the US, but in a conservative society it could be a test of your discretion, a silent dare to see if you'll risk approaching. The signals are real, but the filters through which they're sent are colored by culture. If you want to read the truth, you can't just look at the eyes, you have to look at the world they grew up in. This is why men who travel often develop a sharper sense for female signals. They learn quickly that there is no one-size-fits-all rule. They adapt. They pick up on the micro-shifts, the context behind the look. They understand that in some places, a woman can't openly signal interest with her body or her words. Her only weapon is her eyes. And if you can't decode them, you'll never see the opportunity sitting right in front of you. But here's the universal thread. No matter where she's from, the eyes always leak truth. Culture might change how she delivers it, but it can't stop the signal itself. Nervousness, curiosity, attraction, disinterest. Those flashes are human, primal, older than any social rule. They come out in the pupils, the blink rate, the way her gaze lingers or retreats. That language doesn't belong to one culture. It belongs to all of us. If you train yourself to notice the differences, you'll always stay ahead. You'll know when a glance is shyness versus when it's a wall. You'll know when a lowered gaze is humility versus when it's rejection. And that makes you dangerous in the best way. Most men stumble blindly, misinterpreting signals and embarrassing themselves. The man who sees deeper? He walks away with clarity, with control, with the ability to read women in any room, in any country, under any circumstance. Avoided eye contact doesn't always mean she's not interested. That's the first mistake most men make. They see her glance away, and they immediately assume rejection. But here's the truth. Eyes that don't meet yours are still saying something. They're signaling nervousness, insecurity, hesitation, or sometimes a test to see how you'll react. Every break in the gaze carries weight. Every dodge has meaning. And if you don't pay attention, you'll miss what's really happening. Think back to when you were younger. That girl in class who never looked you in the eyes when you spoke. Was it because she hated you? Or was it because she liked you so much she couldn't handle the pressure of being caught? Avoidance can cut both ways. Sometimes it's fear of exposure. Sometimes it's disinterest. Sometimes it's her trying to control her own emotions before they give her away. You can't just label it one thing and move on. You have to see the difference. Nervous avoidance looks different from cold rejection. Nervous avoidance comes with small tells. Her pupils still widen when you're close, her body still angles toward you, her hands fidget. She breaks the gaze because holding it is too intense, too vulnerable. On the other hand, rejection is colder. The eyes look past you, not through you. Her body angles away, her movements are closed. She's not dodging because she feels too much. She's dodging because she feels nothing. That's the line most men miss. Then there's the stare down, the uncomfortable lock that makes you feel like prey under a spotlight. Women use this too, sometimes deliberately, sometimes unconsciously. It's a test of resilience. Can you hold your ground without shrinking? Can you meet her eyes without breaking? Many men can't. They crumble under that kind of pressure, and once they do, the respect is gone. Avoidance in this sense doesn't come from her. It comes from you. You couldn't hold the gaze, so you gave up the power. Breaking the gaze is also an art. Done right, it's a tool. You don't need to hold her eyes like a statue every time. Sometimes you break it to show control, to demonstrate you're not desperate for her approval. A slow, deliberate break in eye contact can show confidence. It says, I choose when to look away, instead of, I couldn't handle it. The difference is in the pacing, in the calmness of the gesture. It's subtle, but women feel it instantly. That's the real secret. Avoidance isn't always weakness. Sometimes it's strategy. Sometimes it's the signal that something deeper is going on. The man who knows how to read it gains an advantage over every other guy in the room. He doesn't take it personally, doesn't panic, doesn't assume the worst. He studies it, understands it, and responds with composure. And that composure is exactly what women notice most. Being stared down by a woman feels different than any other kind of look. It isn't soft. It isn't fleeting. It hits you with weight, with pressure, like she's holding you in place without moving a muscle. Most men can't handle it. Their body twitches, their throat tightens, their eyes dart away as if they've been caught doing something wrong. And in that exact moment, the power shifts. She sees what you are, or more importantly, what you aren't. That stare is never neutral. It's a challenge, a probe, sometimes even a weapon. There's an edge to it you can't ignore. Sometimes it's attraction cloaked as defiance. She wants to see if you'll stay calm under fire. She wants to know if your confidence is real or just a mask that collapses the second pressure is applied. Other times it's pure test. She's daring you to fold, to show weakness, to break before she does. Women use this instinctively. They don't always realize it, but deep down they know. The man who can't meet a gaze can't handle much else either. And then there are the moments when it's something darker. A stare that isn't about attraction at all, but about control. It happens in professional settings, in arguments, in silent standoffs. She uses her eyes to press you down, to unsettle you, to establish dominance without saying a word. If you mistake that for flirtation, you lose. If you let it make you squirm, you lose. The only winning move is composure. Not aggression. Not submission. Calm strength. You can't flinch, but you also can't overplay it. Men often swing too far the other way. They think the answer is to glare back, to harden their jaw, to play chicken with her eyes until someone cracks. That doesn't show confidence. It shows insecurity dressed as defiance. Real composure is different. It's steady, not stiff. It's relaxed, not forced. You hold the gaze, but you don't need to prove anything with it. That subtle difference is what women pick up on immediately. What's wild is how fast the judgment is made. The stare lasts seconds, but the impression lasts much longer. If you break too quickly, she files you under, not steady. If you hold with calm control, you move into a completely different category. You become the man who doesn't fold under pressure. And that shifts everything. Attraction, respect, curiosity, they all rise when you prove you can meet her eyes without losing yourself. Think of it like a storm. Most men try to fight the wind and get blown away. The confident man plants himself, unmoved, unshaken. He doesn't need to fight it because he knows it can't move him. That's what eye contact under pressure is. A storm testing your foundation. And the man who stands firm in that silence communicates more than words ever could. He says without speaking, "I'm not going anywhere." And that message is unforgettable. A man who knows how to hold eye contact without flinching doesn't need to say he's confident. Everyone feels it. That's the unspoken law of the gaze. It's not about staring harder or longer than anyone else, it's about control. It's about showing you can stand your ground without breaking, without shifting, without needing to prove a thing. Women sense this instantly. Men sense it too. The room itself shifts when a man understands the dominance of the eyes. Eye contact has always been about power. Leaders, fighters, kings, generals, they all used it as a silent weapon long before words ever mattered. To look someone in the eye without hesitation is to say, "I see you and I don't fear you." That message cuts deeper than speeches. And women, whether they admit it or not, test for that quality every time they look at a man. They want to know, are you centered or are you fragile? Do you fold under pressure or do you hold the line? Her gaze can challenge your authority or it can submit to it. You have to know which one you're facing. A challenging gaze is sharp, steady, testing. It's her pushing to see if you'll collapse. If you stand firm, calm, unbothered, her challenge often flips into curiosity, even respect. A submissive gaze is softer, lingering, often paired with lowered eyes afterward. That's her signaling openness, signaling that she's willing to follow your lead if you're strong enough to take it. The problem is, most men don't recognize the difference. They either treat every gaze as a threat or every gaze as a green light. Both mistakes cost them. The power gaze isn't about intimidation, it's about presence. You don't need to glare. You don't need to lock your eyes in a contest until one of you breaks. That's insecurity. True dominance is measured, composed, balanced. You hold when it matters, you release when you choose. The decision is yours, not hers. That's what makes it powerful. Think of a negotiation. The man who can keep steady eye contact without looking away communicates strength without a single word. The other person feels it. They sense the weight. Women operate the same way. When you meet her eyes and hold them with calm control, you're telling her that you can lead, that you won't be rattled by pressure, that you can handle both her beauty and her storm. That's what she's searching for in those silent exchanges. Most men fail because they don't understand timing. They hold too long and turn interest into discomfort. They drop too quickly and look weak. Mastery lies in knowing the rhythm. Meeting her eyes, holding steady just enough to create a spark, then breaking on your own terms. That tiny sequence tells her more than hours of conversation ever could. In the end, dominance in the eyes isn't about force, it's about control. Control of yourself, control of the moment, control of the message you're sending. The man who owns that control owns the room. And when a woman feels that energy, she knows instantly, this is not a boy, this is a man. Eye contact isn't just about her. It's about the entire room. Most men make the mistake of thinking it's only personal, just between them and the woman they're focused on. But that's not how it works. Every environment has a hierarchy, a silent order, and the eyes reveal it before anyone speaks. The way people look at you, the way they hold or break contact, tells you exactly where you stand without a single word being exchanged. If you can't read it, you're always behind. Step into a room full of strangers. Watch closely. The leader doesn't have to announce himself. His presence is felt through eye contact. People glance toward him more often. They hold his gaze longer before looking away. They defer without thinking about it. The quiet observer notices this immediately. The blind man misses it completely, then wonders why his voice carries no weight. Women notice it too. They see who commands attention without trying. They see who the others subtly orbit around. And they feel it when that man's eyes land on them. The same law applies everywhere. Bars, meetings, gyms, family gatherings. The room has a structure and the eyes expose it. The man who doesn't understand this ends up overstepping or shrinking in the wrong places. He makes himself look desperate for approval or unaware of the silent current. The man who does understand it moves like water. He adapts. He knows when to assert, when to hold, when to break away. That control makes him untouchable. When it comes to women, this skill becomes even more valuable. She's not just looking at you in isolation, She's reading how you move with others. Do other men look at you with respect or challenge? Do they break eye contact first, or do you? Do people unconsciously glance toward you when things happen, as if waiting for your reaction? She notices it all. If she sees that others treat you as the man in the room, her perception of you changes instantly. Attraction isn't just about looks or charm, it's about status, and status is revealed through the eyes. But here's the danger. If you don't know how to read the room, you'll misplay your hand. You'll try to dominate when you should observe. You'll try to stare down the wrong person and end up looking foolish. You'll ignore the subtle hierarchy and position yourself at the bottom without realizing it. That's why reading eye contact in groups is as important as reading it one-on-one. It keeps you calibrated, keeps you sharp. The secret isn't constant staring, it's awareness. Notice who holds and who breaks. Notice who looks often and who avoids. Notice how people respond when you meet their eyes. In those micro moments, the whole social structure reveals itself. And once you can read it, you can adjust. You can shift yourself into the role of authority without saying a word. That's the level of mastery most men never reach. But the ones who do, they never walk into a room unnoticed. You've made it this far, and by now you realize the eyes were never just about seeing. They were signals. They were tests. They were windows into everything a woman would never put into words. But here's the truth that most men ignore. Reading her eyes isn't just about her. It's about you. How you respond. How steady you stay. How much power you project in that silent moment where the world shrinks down to a single look. That's where men are separated from boys. That's where attraction is decided long before a word leaves your mouth. Because when her glance lingers, you either fold under the pressure or you hold steady like stone. When she looks away quickly, you either chase the meaning with insecurity or you stand firm, knowing not every look deserves your energy. And when she locks eyes, testing if you can handle her storm, your reaction says everything about your frame. Will you break? Or will you command the moment without flinching? Eye contact is primal. It's older than language, older than society, older than the games people play. It's written into your instincts to notice it, but only the man who sharpens himself can interpret it. If you miss the meaning, you miss the opportunity. If you overthink it, you crush the spark before it grows. But if you master it, you'll see the difference between curiosity and desire, between respect and intimidation, between a challenge and an invitation. And here's the part no one wants to admit. Women respect the man who doesn't just see their eyes, but reads their intent. She may not even know why she feels drawn to you, but her body does. Her nervous glance, her bold stare, her quick dart away, they're all telling a story. You just have to be the kind of man calm enough to listen without words. Think back to all the times you hesitated. The times you looked away too soon. The times you broke the silence because you couldn't hold the tension. Those weren't accidents. They were missed chances. Every look is a test of your composure. Fail it and she feels it instantly. Pass it and you stand out in her world like a man among boys. So here's the lesson. Don't treat her eyes like decoration. Don't reduce a glance to a meaningless flicker. Treat every look as a conversation, and you'll start to see the things most men never catch. You'll see the nerves she hides. You'll see the interest she won't admit. You'll see the boundaries she sets without speaking. And when you know all that, you carry an advantage most men will never earn. The eyes aren't just windows into her. They're mirrors of you. What she feels in that moment is determined by the presence you bring. If you can hold steady, grounded, unshaken, then her gaze won't rattle you. It will bend toward you. And when that happens, you'll know you've mastered the language men were never taught to read. If you're ready to master the unspoken game and turn eye contact into one of your sharpest weapons, hit subscribe right now. Because the men who learn this don't just see women differently, they see the entire world differently.